All right, everyone, welcome back into another Fantasy Golf video. Going to be breaking down the Valspar Championship here for you guys, giving you my final thoughts and just kind of recapping the week as well. So we should start off with really the biggest piece of news that we need on the week, the deciding factor on the week. That's going to be the weather report. Now, if we look on the PGA Tour website, we are getting a slightly differing message, I would say, in terms of weather compared to some of the other sites. So Windfinder is a pretty popular one out there in the fantasy golf space. Everyone likes to look at that. That's showing more significant winds compared to other sources. Like if you look at AccuWeather is a pretty popular site. You look at something like just the Weather Channel. They all have it slightly lower in terms of wind. So Windfinder is telling us it's going to be more windy, especially with the gusts. The overall consensus, though, with the reports that we're looking at with weather is that there could end up being an early AMT time for round one. Specifically for round one, showdown slates, we should be targeting that. But for the full slate as well, if you are targeting a golfer that has an AM PM split, you are probably setting up pretty well. And so in terms of potentially like using the 9 to 5 custom model to build lineups this way, and you don't really have to because it's already naturally being adjusted in there into the projections because Vegas is already heavily adjusting for the wind advantage as well. But what you could do is we go to like type in AM. We want an extreme AM PM advantage. Okay. And then we could still, this is already adjusting for the 9 to 5 model rank just as FY, but you could still toss in the model rank there as well. Could toss in Vegas odds as well. Let's do that. And so then you could export this and then upload that into the PGA lineup builder, but we don't even have to do that because the data is already doing that for us naturally. And again, that's the tough part about this week is how much is too much. And so let's put it this way. If the Windfinder weather is correct, I think there's a potential for a delay actually tomorrow because it might create a little bit too much of an advantage for the AM wave. Now, I doubt that, but I referenced this in the 9 to 5 write-up, and I should pull that up here, guys. Let's get that going. And actually, while we're here, I'm working on a little update to the 9 to 5 cheat sheet, guys. This is a page that literally, as I was going live, I was working on this. If you click on the cheat sheet button again, actually, I guess I'll get this corrected right after the live stream here. So yeah, like I said, I was working on a data sheet update. You'd have to click on another sheet to get back into the normal cheat sheet. So that was a separate cheat sheet that I'm working on. It's more of a simple data view. I'll show you guys that real quick. Just running out of time on the day. Typically speaking, I like to, whether it be for props or fantasy golf, I like to do one little update, and throughout the week, I like to do one big update. It's typically my goal each day, and so this is kind of, I guess, a big update, but obviously, you guys see what I'm going for here. This is more of a snapshot, and that's what I'm going to call it. The snapshot of the week. So basically, we would want to be targeting these golfers at the early tee times. And let's just go through this actually. So, and again, you guys see the black here. That's tough to view right now, right? But we'll get that fixed. But you can see like the proper ownership for the golfers, and the projected ownership as well. It'll call it slightly over-owned or slightly under-owned. We have all that. We have the data tags. So the 9 to 5 AI, again, if I were trying to advertise that and market it, that's what I would call it. But this is just a simple checks and balance of which golfers are good golf plays and whatnot. So we have that. And then we also have the outright tag as well. We have the Vegas make cut percent, also the 9 to 5 make cut percent, and then just a snapshot of the key metrics that we look at each week. And we have the DK value listed in there as well. So did want to toss that out. I do have that in there as well. But like I said, that's a work in progress, hopefully done tonight here as well. But I want to get a live stream out to you guys to talk about the weather splits. And so, yes, we can just get into the normal cheat sheet here. And we're probably just loading up on the earlier guys. Now, it's not that difficult to do, actually. So we are still going to get, I like Substraka a decent amount. The data does not like him as much, although the data does have him as like a high exposure play, someone that we're going out of our way to target regardless. And so Tommy Fleetwood, Substraka, to me, those are kind of starting points, given the weather that we have. Then Xander, you can get to as well. Michael Kim actually becomes a very interesting option. Obviously, last week, Michael Kim let down a lot of people in the fantasy golf community. And I haven't really looked at ownership at all, other than when I posted it yesterday on the 9 to 5 write-up. but I think we can go back to him this week, and I think he actually makes for a decent outright bet. I have adjusted the weather for bad weather as well, so we're hoping that that wind finder weather report is actually a little bit more accurate than some of the other resources. Again, they're just a little bit higher in terms of the projected win. Michael Kim, great first round lead bet. Basically, all these early options are going to be good plays, but we are getting some plays that do stand out. Hogard is still a good option, I think, this week. Matt Kuchar. So Matt Kuchar was a golfer that I mentioned would be a core play for me this week, in the sense that he's a golfer that I'm going out of my way to roster. That's what I put out in the first video of the week. And man, again, guys, I was working on updates. I'll get this corrected. Apologies for that. That's weird. That's annoying. I know exactly how that happened. That's annoying. Anyway, we won't even do that then. I'm annoyed at that. I'll get that fixed right after this. But basically, you can still see it. I mean, it's whatever. I mean, he has good course history here. We like that. Let's look down. He's not coming in that high owned, which is pretty crazy, right? He gets the 9-5 tag, the badge of excellence there for the core play, and not that many people are on him. Now, again, he's a core play in the sense that given the roster construction, he's tough not to click on this week in the sense that we know we want to pay up for some of the safer plays. And again, we have one safe play on the week, and that is Tommy Fleetwood. Again, I referenced this in the 9-5 write-up. If you guys want to check that out, it's available on the 9-5 website, guys. It's free. Still making it free. That might change here. But yeah, we go into it. So we have one core play this week. One player that's like technically checking all the boxes, and that's Tommy Fleetwood. He is the safest play on paper. I would agree with that. And he does get the favorable tee time. So we should be rocking with Tommy Fleetwood. A lot of people are kind of making jokes at Tommy Fleetwood's expense as well about his odds that we're getting. I'm like, who gives a like, if he's a good outright bet, he's a good outright bet. We should still be placing it. When I did the write up yesterday, you could still get him at 16-1 on Movada, 11-1 on FanDuel. I believe that's come down a little bit. We can take a peek at that as well. Let's see here. Yeah, 11-1 still. Like, I could make an argument that, and the data is actually making this argument for us as well. Yeah, I referenced this in the write up here. It's given us two good outright bets this week. Tommy Fleetwood and Seb Straka. And I could argue you could end your betting card there. That should be it. And so when you're getting Tommy Fleetwood at 11-1 odds and you're ending your betting card with two golfers, who really cares, right? I know the narrative a lot of people like to say is, oh, he can't win. These golfers can't win. And I'm just like, I that narrative gets proven time and time again to just be a stupid narrative. It's more of a content thing, I think, rather than a like informational take. It's just easier to say that someone can't win and just write them off. People like to look for reasons to bet someone rather than, oh, he's the best golfer, let's bet him, and we can give him 11-1. And when we're getting a potential big significant wind advantage, potentially, I want to keep saying that because we know weather can change, right? And we see a lot of times where the weather maybe doesn't make as big of a difference as it was going to seem. And we saw that happen, not so much last year, but 2 years ago, we saw that happen a bunch where basically the opposite of what was expected happened. And that was basically due to the PGA Tour suspending play somewhat randomly, which was annoying. But I do think those are the two best outright bets we should begin to. I do still think, just given the number that we're getting on Taylor Moore now, a golfer that really ranked out well, 8-1 at the time of the write-up. That's another gripe I have is on X, a lot of people like post their betting cards from Monday, but they'll post it on Wednesday, which is fine. But I'm like, use the odds on Wednesday, like you're putting out there to hopefully try to help people. That's why you're putting out there. Do those odds. Because like if the odds change, would you still be making those bets? With some of the golfers, that does change. And I will say, guys, I can't quit Kevin Roy. Can't quit this dude. We're up money on him. I mean, it's like the third week out of 4 events where I've recommended him as a bet, whether first round leader or outright wise. We're up on him though, so that's okay. But he's going to be someone that I do like first round leader wise as well. And so that's how I'm attacking this week as well. First round leader wise, I am getting to Kevin Royce. I was actually pretty surprised. Bet365 had him at 100-1. Those offshore books were a little bit slower to adjust the odds. I still like him. I think he was like 80-1 as well. I'm still fine with that. And let's just take a peek at those. So I'm still betting on these guys first round lead wise as well. Tommy Fleetwood, Substraka as well. Yeah, so you can get Tommy Fleetwood 25-1 first round lead. That's pretty crazy. So I'm pretty good with those odds. Let's see here. It's this, yeah. So honestly, DFS Chef, the narratives too. Like I believe it's his 150th start this week as well. It's kind of fitting there. You look at the field. The field's pretty trash. You look at a week in which there's potential big weather advantages. Like it's set up perfectly for him. The interesting thing about this week is it's kind of like last week in the sense that like all the best plays on paper, like a majority of the better plays on paper are in the PM split. And so, sorry, they're starting they're in the PM/AM split. So the late tee time in round one. And that's what happened in the Players Championship. And so the weird thing about this week is that. And so if there is that big weather split, Tommy Fleetwood not only is the best player in the field, model wise and odds wise, that even elevates a little bit more than in terms of increasing his likelihood to win. So he is someone I do think we should be going out of our way to target for sure. I mean, whenever we're talking about winning, like he's still 11-1 odds. Like that's still not a high percentage, but I can see it. It's pretty easy to see. He's a golfer that's been playing well. I would have liked a little bit more upside from him last week, to be honest with you. Like the fact that he fell off and only finished 14th was a little bit concerning, honestly. But continuing to play great golf. I mean, we're looking at a golfer that's finished top 25 or better in all of his last 7 starts, those most significant data points. That's pretty darn crazy. Well, Malnati one here. Everyone is live. Yes, but you got to remember every single year there is a few random outright winners, just data wise, and just that happens every single year. There's about 4 or 5 that happen, and he was just one of those players that won randomly. Typically speaking, the good golfers are going to win. And it's just whether or not you're on those good golfers. Like I was on Rory last week. I could have been on Rory. Kind of in a weird way, somewhat felt like a mistake, honestly, but he's such a hit or miss option. I kind of just don't like being on, but there have been a decent amount of, good golfers winning thus far this season as well. So not too crazy there. There's just always some random winners. And Malnati was just clearly that. Like you're not going to be on Malnati. You just kind of take those hits. It is what it is. Let's continue on here, guys. I did want to mention the weather a little bit more as well in regards to like just the data. So let's pull that up here with the 9 to 5 lineup builder. And so just as an FY, the lineup builder has been defaulting to round 1, actually, just as an FY. So if you're trying to get to the main slate, you'd have to click on the main slate. That's fine. FanDuel's in there as well, just as an FY. But let's do round 1 first. So again, this is already naturally adjusting for the golfers with the AMT times to be the good plays. Now, I will say the AM wave in round 1 does not seem as significant of an advantage as does those same golfers going off in the PM wave, just in the time of which the projected win advantages are. Like the earliest AMT time golfers are the ones that seem to have the biggest edges, which you could almost go ahead and scale. Let's just sort by tee times here. You could almost just scale the golfers you want to be on a little bit more. Like Jacob Bridgman is a player that I've gone to naturally. Look at Michael Kim and that earlier tee time that he has. He's someone that I've gone to a little bit more simply because we know based off of how early he is playing that he is going to get those lighter conditions. Joseph Brunlett, same thing. Whereas if we still target some of those golfers that have the AMT time, but the later AMT times, they're still getting a majority of their holes in for round 1 with some poor conditions. And so I am definitely using golfers that have the earlier tee times as 50-50 decisions, a bunch actually already. And so let's see. This came up a couple of times. So yeah, I was kind of debating whether to want to be on like Joe Highsmith, and I believe it was Joseph Bremlett. And I'm like, well, Bremlett has an earlier tee time. They're basically the same on paper. Let's go with the golfer that has that slightly earlier tee time. Same thing with Jacob Bridgman, stuff like that. That's where I'm making my slight edges in terms of 50-50 decision makers, in terms of like building out hand lineups. So that's how I'm getting to some more golfers. Now, I'm not going to knock Matt Kuchar because he has a middle of the AM tee time. Like, he still is in the better tee time split. But I did want to call it. We are slightly favoring those golfers that have the earlier tee times. Yeah, let's just run this so you guys can see kind of what it's telling us for the round one split. But again, not as big of an emphasis in terms of the fantasy projections. Like, if we get a couple PM golfers, that's not the end all be all. And it is an interesting thought process, just to jump back into that one more time. I don't know how many of you guys play golf, but one of the things that is tough for me to adjust personally, and I do think this happens to pros as well, is when you go from the conditions not being that difficult, 5-mile-per-hour winds, to 7-mile-per-hour winds, to about 15-mile-per-hour winds with gusts, like at the end of the round, that's always tough for me to adjust to. Like, in a weird way, mentally and just with my swing, I would rather just have it be 15-mile-per-hour winds the whole time rather than it start off not windy and then have it pick up in the wind. Like, that seems to be a tough adjustment that some golfers make, especially on holes where there's water. Like, oh, that ball was flying 10 yards further earlier on in the day, and now it's not. Like, that is a tough adjustment for those golfers to make, and the caddies to make as well, because they're on the course. They're not able to see those adjustments as much. Now, can we do anything with that information and take? No, but again, that's just me saying the golfers in the PM split, we don't have to like jump off of as much specifically for round one purposes. Okay. A full slate, we are still, again, going with the PM golfers a little bit more. And honestly, I hate these slates. I do, because everyone's doing it. I'm still probably going to get, honestly, maybe only 5% of lineups with the PM/AM only split. Now, just that's how like significant the weather advantage seems. And the only reason we do that is to adjust for the potential of the PGA Tour to suspend play just due to high winds. But again, looking at the reports that are out there, I looked at 5 different ones. Windfinder, again, is a little bit too high compared to everyone else. If their report is right, Windfinder, there could be that, but I'm not expecting it this week. But anyways, looking at this round one builds, guys, it is getting to a lot of Xander. If you guys want to get to him, you can. His best round last week was round one. He did fall off. His game is somewhat struggling. I don't know if you guys watched TGL. Shout out to Team Faces. That's what I call them, because all the most likable golfers are on that team. Bricky, Xander, Matt Fitzpatrick, like Team Face, right? I mean, they're the if WWE terms, they're easy players to cheer for. They're never going to be the bad guys, if you will. Never going to turn heel. So shout out to them. Fun. TGL has been fun. I don't like to pat myself on the back, but that's a pat on the back. Nailed that. Right when that came out, I'm like, this is going to be successful. This is going to be big for the game of golf. And I don't know about you guys, but that has given me some juice back into like professional golf. Last year it was tougher to get content out last year. It was, just in general. I'm going off on a slight tangent here, but I wonder if other people feel the same. Like, for me, guys, just with all the live stuff that was going on, all the live bot accounts on Axe and stuff, it was kind of just a drain on professional golf in general. And then TGL, just with the way it's set up early on in the week, after tournaments, kind of just get those juices flowing again for the week. I do wish they would do a better job of highlighting the upcoming tournament to provide some like life to it. I think that would do numbers for them as well as for the upcoming tournament, but you see it in the viewership as well. Like, I don't think this is just a me thing. The Players Championship viewership ratings went up this last year. And yeah, you could argue, well, the Players Championship has been a little bit unfortunate really since 2020 with the COVID year. Some weather stuff has occurred where their finishes are not good. And that happened last week, and the views were still up. And I think that is heavily due to the TGL, honestly. Just more views on golf help, and then fans are getting there a little bit more. Yeah, I don't. So I don't know if this is correct, DFS Chef. And in terms of it actually happening, maybe, but again, like 2 years ago, I remember this happening like 4 times where it seemed like there's going to be a big weather edge, and it just didn't occur because the PGA Tour suspended play. And albeit they probably shouldn't have done it, and it kind of negated those weather splits. But yeah, in terms of it being like a 2-day weather split, maybe I could see that. Maybe, yeah, we see that. Yeah, probably just off the top of my head. Yeah. Um, I know I was just going off of the TGL tangent, but it's good. I'm excited. Like, I'm enjoying golf a lot more these days, guys. And it helps when you're doing well. That does help as well. But let's go ahead and get into the main slate lineup builder as well. Kind of showed you guys that round one showdown stuff. Actually, let's finish that thought with round one, and then we'll get into the main slate. Oh, I do want to do a live stream, Hunter. I do want to do a live stream that maybe tonight, maybe even tomorrow morning before the games take place. I do have a couple of things written down. Since you asked, let's go over it. So I believe it's a Sweet 16 matchup. Natch, let's just do it real quick. I literally have it on a little sticky note with my terrible handwriting. So let's just answer these. Awesome. I'm actually excited you asked, man. All right. So we got Purdue over Clemson. And so these 4 matchups I'm going to talk about here just real quickly for college basketball, they're all where Vegas has this team as the favorite. But if you look at the public picks, like the percent of the public picks on them, the public is all higher on the opposite team. So like Purdue is more likely to go to the Sweet 16 and advance out of that round compared to Clemson. But a majority of people that have that matchup are choosing Clemson. So that's a slight edge there. One of my favorite ones, actually, it's not. I actually hate this one. So I like Memphis a lot. I know they're going to be without Hunter there, most likely. Tyrese Hunter, that is. And so CSU is actually favorited in round one to win that matchup. And so it's weird. Like most people are picking Memphis. Like it's a 5-12 matchup. Like 66% of people are picking Memphis to win that matchup. But CSU is projected winning by 2.5 points. So naturally, that's already a big edge spot as well. But I hate that one. I like Memphis won their conference tournament. PJ Haggerty has been a stud for props purposes on my main channel. I shouldn't say main channel, co-channel these days. Because guys, I've been having to get my content out at like 11, 12 on that channel, the props channel, which it's the weirdest thing because all the metrics are better than a normal video that I get out at like 8 a.m., except for the views. The views are like a fifth of what they would be if I just got them out at 8 a.m. And the whole, shouldn't say the whole reason, a good portion of the reason as to why I do that, especially with NBA props and college basketball props, is a lot of it changes. And all the best props are then available at 11, 12 when I've been getting those videos out. And so it's like, why do a video at 8 just for viewership, just for content purposes, when it's not going to be helping people out? It's a mental stress. It's a battle for me with that. It really is, because it's like, on one hand, yeah, I need to be getting more views on that channel. On the other hand, I value giving people content, good picks and content, profitable content more. It's a weird balance act. Anyways, getting back into this, Ole Miss to win their matchup was another one. And then Texas Tech over St. John's was actually a good one as well. So a lot of people probably have St. John's or possibly Texas Tech winning that group, that bracket. But a lot more people were on St. John's to beat Texas Tech in that. And Vegas actually has Texas Tech much more likely to advance out of that matchup than the public did. And one other thing, like Arizona as well to go to the Sweet 16 has like minus 200 odds, which I found crazy there. So sorry about that. Sorry about the college stuff, but I might be doing a live stream on that. What's going on, Phil? What's going on? Sorry about the little college basketball stuff. Let's go ahead and get back into the golf stuff. But if you have any college basketball stuff, I'd be happy to answer this. And just as an FYI, guys, prop wise, since I was just talking about that, let's just pull that up real quick, actually. And I know, this is not what you guys signed up for when you clicked on this video. Apologies, but we'll just touch on it real quick. Because if you are someone that are doing PGA prop bets for PrizePicks for Underdog, some of the best prop bets that we are getting are actually with the college basketball prop bets. So if there's a prop bet that you like that's popping up for PGA, attach it to a college basketball prop bet, because more than likely you're going to do 2-stroke props for over or under, whatever, together, or birdies are better, where they correlate so the payouts can be reduced. A workaround with that is just to attach the best bets on the board, which are college basketball ones. So slight adjustment there with the content. Let's go ahead and get back into the lineup builder here. So yeah, for the main slate, what you guys will see with the 9 to 5 lineup builder is it already is adjusting decently for the weather advantages. Oh, that's the late. And so you don't really have to change much. Like, you can use the 9 to 5 custom model if you guys want to upload that data set into it and you're good to go, but it's already naturally getting to the players that you would want to get to. Let me reload the data here. I think Thomas went down a little bit, and we can even lower his even a little bit more. So we don't need to be on him that much. And I personally want to get to Substrack a little bit more than what the data is doing. I like him a decent amount. And so let's just generate it just to see. It is adjusting a little bit more again for the weather split than it was earlier on in the week, even so. And so naturally what you guys are going to see is it's still getting to the early AMT times mostly. Now, it likes these foreigners a lot more. Like, geez, I don't need to get to those guys as much. So what I'm doing manually here is, and let's just do a normal build. We can kind of go through this. So I haven't finalized my lineups just yet. I was waiting on the weather. This is very weather intensive slate. I've been waiting on the weather. So can partially kind of do what I normally do here and go through that process. And so I don't need to get to ranges there that much, like 30%. I probably I'll be even weight. I'll get to him at like 6%. Like, I don't need to be on that much. Christian Bazoonhound as well. Like, I can be overweight on him, but let's get to him about 15%. Like, I don't need to go crazy with the guys. Taylor Moore as well has that PM wave. I can still be overweight, but don't need to go crazy with it. But I'm probably going to do 90% of my lineups more focusing, like doing 150 lineups with the AM PM split, attacking that. Whereas if I'm just doing 20 lineups, I'm probably okay doing it this way and adjusting, down from some players a lot. But what's the common theme here? When we set it at 30% exposure, it's spreading out a decent amount here. Spreading out a decent amount. Got Phil saying that Xander's going to win. I hope not. It sounds. I'm probably the in terms of like fantasy golf content creators out there, I'm probably the person that's been on and hyped up Xander the most in the industry, I would say. And I haven't been on him the last 3 weeks, and I've been on him like literally every single slate for like the past 3 years. It's super strange, and so I don't know how to feel about that. I would say he's my favorite player. I don't even know if because I'm not really on him. I will be for Showdown, and I probably will end up on him just with the lineup builder telling me to be on him. But I don't know how to feel about that because I don't really want him to win. Actually, I would rather him play well this week. I would rather him get his game into place and show up at the Masters. Go out and win that, because right now there's no hope with him. Right, you're no chance he wins the Masters as he currently sits data wise. If he puts on a good show this week, I would rather that happen. I have thought about Webb a little bit here. I forget what. Let's pull him up. And actually, let me refresh. Let me refresh this page again. This is an update that I need to fix. I need to make this a separate tab. I made the mistake of going live as I was trying to do this update, So it's tough to see. I apologize. Again, it's defaulting to this page. I'll get that corrected after the live stream here. Let's see. Um, I have thought about Webb a little bit, and you referenced he gained strokes approach in his 5 straight. I don't. That's a fine data point to like point out and be happy about, but we need to look at the full sample of a golfer. And so if you're using that and also looking at his course history and you're like, I can get to him a little bit more than the field, I'm fine with that. But I do worry that people use that a little bit as a crutch argument to be on someone when ultimately they're bad play. And if you are chasing him because he has that early tee time and he's a cheap price tag because he's 6.5, I'm okay with that. But I always like to give people a little bit of pause there when I hear something like that. Like, I'm fine with him as a play, but like, the reason you'd be on him is, first, you like his course history. You like that his form isn't trash, and then you would look at something like that. Like, that's a secondary data point, and also obviously the early tee time. But I would imagine you're asking because of the price tag, and the price tag has been something that interests me as well. But if we look at some of these other players here, then let's just do this. I don't know if you guys follow. There's like an X account that does like what is it? They like track all the outright bets that a lot of people on X are on. They don't track me, which is definitely strange. I've been doing this for a long time, dominating for a long time. I don't know what that's about. I think I do. It's because a lot of times I just put my outright bets in the write ups and don't always tweet it out because of what I had the little tangent on earlier, guys, where if the odds change, would I still bet those guys and just all that? Like, right? Like, so on the write up, I typically wait till Tuesday so that doesn't happen. So the players that I would be betting on are still the players I'm betting on. But occasionally I would have to update a lot of graphics. Becomes a little bit more work there. I would imagine that's why. But the point I'm trying to get at here is one of the players that people are on is Davis Riley. Like, they had is the most tip chart is what I'm referring to, which I kind of get. 3 straight made cuts, relatively decent course history. I could see why people would want to end up on him value wise. At the same time, like, you could find the same narrative to get to Grayson Sig. Jeremy Paul's an interesting click. Doesn't have any course experience, but decent stat fit. Like, the fact that many people had the same thought process is weird. Like, Steven Fisk is someone that pops up stat fit wise. I'm not expecting a great week out of him, but coming in off a good week. Decent value play. So if you're looking for some other value options other than Webb, you could look at some of these golfers that are around that same price tag. Jackson Sumner is someone that you're not expecting much out of him. 2 out of his last 4 events, he's missed a cut and not really good upside finishes. But, somewhat local guy, has the early tee time. That should bode well. I mean, that's certainly me searching for a reason to click on someone, which is a theme this week. Ricky Castillo. I mean, the poor man's Kevin Roy. Really good staff it again this week. You would expect him to be right around a make cut. If he's hitting the ball well, could end up being a fine player to get to. Ideally, you're just mixing and matching these decent value plays down here in with all the other golfers. But yeah, Davis Riley as an outright bet I thought was interesting. Not someone I was going out of my way to roster. Not someone that the data is going to naturally like or bet on. Like, I could argue Rico Hoy is someone that when he's on his game, much better outright bet. I could argue Kevin Roy, definitely a much better outright bet. Like, I don't think that one's too crazy. Much better staff hit. Has shown some upside recently. Had the first round lead at event recently. Local guy-ish. Local ties, I should say. Got to be careful with that because the local ties is just data points of golfers that have recorded that they have either play from that area, are from that area, reside in that area, or have went to college in that area. So it's those 4 data points. So if a golfer meets one of those data thresholds from the start of the season, that could change and update throughout the season, then they have local ties. And so he's one of them. I actually looked it up. Kevin Roy, I think it was resides in Southern Tampa. I think that might have been what was listed there. Either way, he's played well at this tournament. 12th and 89th place finishes. Really good staff hit. Again, paid off for us just 2 events ago with the first round lead. 6th place finish. Obviously terrible last week, but not terrible. Joseph Bremlett. This is where I find it weird. So, like, if you're going out of your way to like roster Davis Riley, wouldn't you try to get to Bramlett as well? Or to bet on? That's where I find it weird when the group thought happens. And if he hits, I'll be happy for the community there. Just interesting that he was on that most tip chart, which seems to find my Twitter feed occasionally. I like to tune out the noise. If you guys haven't caught that, I like to tune out the noise as much as possible. My worst weeks in terms of me giving content are the weeks in which there's a lot of noise coming in. And so I don't like to look at too much stuff before I'm done with the write-up. And then we can make adjustments from there. Yeah, I like Rico Hoy. Let me see. I believe I had him on the write-up here. Yeah, so he was one of the players that I entered in here like as someone I didn't want to miss out on. So I probably have gone to him a little bit more than no, I haven't. I've been pretty much on par with the player pool here, but I have gotten on him a decent amount. Pull this up. So typically speaking, this is about 0 to 5% here, guys, is what I'm looking at. Oops. Switched the wrong tab. What I'm getting to with him is more of 5%. Basically, all these golfers right here, I'm getting to at least 5%, 7% actually in some cases this week because of how drastic the AM PM split is. He's fine. I think he's popping. He's popping. Obviously, with these golfers that we're on the lower end, like basically all these golfers right here are GPP only plays. We're searching for upside. I think he gives that upside. I think Fisk gives us that upside. Sig, Ramlet, like all his golfers give us some upside. Whereas the lower exposure or the low exposure plays right here, all a little bit safer. All a little bit safer. And that's, obviously that's how I scale the data, the content is more safety and upside combined together. I'm not always just focused on chasing the upside. I do try to call that out every single week with the GPP only plays and the cash plays and whatnot. Let's see here. So I feel like I've covered the weather split a lot here already. Let's get into some other bets that we can be on for the week. And let me just get that loaded on my end here, guys. And unfortunately, we're really not getting prop line differences. Okay. And so, yeah, let's pull that up. Like all the prop line differences that we are getting for prize picks are just going to be these birdie or better matchup prop bets. And so let's look at the edge. Now, I do want to call it the edge here. It's probably not adjusting for the wind as much, especially with these lower lines. At the same time, it's not that crazy to see some golfers get to 2.5 birdies or better. What I would probably want to do, I know I keep like calling out the prop site better, but like the best way to go if you are chasing like 5 slip bets, 6 slip bets for like props betting purposes, do it on there because the payout for the going 4 for 5, going 4 for 6 is better there than it is on any other site. But if you like any of these, it's worth calling out. Like will Zach Johnson get to 3 birdies or better? I actually don't hate that. I think that's fine. But the data is basically telling us here that we should be favoring the overs a little bit more. But all these right here, guys, I always say this, these are all pushes. All pushes. All these ones at 3 are pushes. So The issue with these bets here is that they're likely to get to 3 birdies or better. That's the bet you're betting on. The slight favorite there, then to say it's like 9% likely for them to get the over, for like Jake Knapp, 9% likely for him to get the over, and then the opposite would be 41% to get the under. Chances are these are all going to be pushes though. And so I don't necessarily like attacking these, because if they don't get there and to get to 4 birdies, that's a lot. It's not like NBA. It's not like NFL where like you get a player that gets 5 receptions or something. That's fine. Or a player that gets 22 points. Like that can fluctuate a little bit more. With golf, it's pretty straightforward. It's either like getting a birdie and projecting birdies and stuff like that. It's typically not that hard to project. It's just whether or not the golfer shows up. And so I don't need to be chasing those push props. No, you guys see the count. I just talked about this. Did you? I'm assuming you just jumped in the stream. So I get the Davis Riley love. I don't think you need to get to him. This has to be a question that comes from someone from on X. I'm assuming. Let's see here. I'm gonna pull him up on the ownership leverage tab. I'm pulling that up here. Yeah. All right. Let's pull him up. This is fun. So he is coming in a little bit over-owned. Okay. So he's slightly over-owned right now with his projected ownership right now. And I actually think this could be higher, guys. So the issue with projected ownerships is when there's like a big weather split like this is, let's just say some of the bigger companies, they might influence their users a little bit more. And because of that, you could see like maybe, one company's telling people to get to Davis Riley a lot more than everyone else. And let's say that company's a little bit of a bigger company. Let's say that could drive his ownership up like double, honestly. But based off of all the data points that we have coming in, this is coming in from several sources. I would say I would probably get him at like 10%. I would assume is what the industry is going to be on him. The proper ownership via Vegas's projections, however, would be like 7%. Okay. So if you adjust that for Vegas projections and also the projected ownership, the proper ownership would be about 8%. Okay. And so if you're playing him, you're losing about a 2% edge there, essentially, because he's not as likely to pay off that projected ownership based off how he's projected to play. And I already went over a bunch of like potential pivots that you could be on in replace of him. But let's just do that again. And again, I mentioned this update that I made last week. I'm liking it. I think it's a little bit more straightforward. I think still have the old ownership leverage tab available for everyone if they want to use that instead. But a lot of people are getting to him because that early AMT time, I get that. But Sig is something that's popping up. Quade Cummings was something that I wanted to get to, but it doesn't have that favorable tee time, so it's tough to click on him. Jeremy Paul, someone that's a little bit cheaper that we can get to. Ricky Castillo is just someone I already mentioned. Fisk is a fine GPP option. I haven't really overly Rico Hoy is someone we were just discussing. I haven't found the need to get to under 7K too much. And so it's not like he's a must click by any means. I would rather I know he's going to crash and burn this week because I've talked him up a decent amount. That's just kind of how it works. Like when you're talking up a bad golfer like Matt Kuchar, but it is what it is. He's coming in kind of properly owned. If you're playing him, you're gaining about 0.7% of an edge playing him. If you're going to get to him about 7% of his ownership, like that's what you should be doing. He's a little bit more expensive, but like just a safer option, about the same play. Like I would rather get to him now. The bad weather is an issue that could play a factor, obviously. Kevin Roy, better GPP option. Joseph Bremlett, better options, and they're not that much higher priced. And so I'm happy that Davis Riley is leaning to some people to ignore other good plays. this isn't exact, like Davis Riley isn't exactly Michael Kim from last week. This is what happened. So for whatever reason, because people are talking about as an outright bet, which I'm not saying that that's wrong. I'm not getting there. That seems to drive up his ownership more than it should be, especially in like cash contests. That tends to happen, and like with your main build single entry type of contest, because people are chasing the upside. Which again, that's fine. GPPs, his ownership should probably be higher in GPPs than it is in cash, because you're chasing that upside. Not the best cash play. And again, you don't have to get there as much. So it's always weird with that. Hope that makes sense. Yeah. So no, do not do a 5-to-1 split. I would not do a 5-to-1 split. No. So again, what you can do this week is this. So again, the 9-to-5 data is already adjusting for us, but if you really wanted to just, let's say you want to do AM only, you want to do AM only lineups, do that. And so I'm assuming you're doing hand lineups if you're asking that question, but really should be putting an extreme emphasis on AM PM splits. I think so. So like if you're doing that, just do it this week. Okay. You don't have to finagle with it. And I know the question probably comes, well, wonder if Justin Thomas has an extremely low round and we miss out on it. I get that sentiment, but at the same time, it's all about odds. It's all about being on the correct side of the odds. And so if we can gain an edge on the field by being on only AM lineups, let's say, I don't know, let's go back into the leverage tab, because this is a great question. So yes, all the golfers that have the AM tee times are golfers that are the highest projection, as they should be, right? Jacob Bridgman, wow, I don't like that, because I'm on a decent amount. But anyways, looking at this, no one's uber chalkish. And again, I do think that these numbers are going to change more overnight than they would on a typical week. If you guys have been following the 9-to-5 projection ownership, it's been pretty solid the past month. The first month, there was a few random golfers that are a little bit higher owned. Scotty Scheffler, there's one week where he's like projected to be 45, ended up being like 60. That happened occasionally, but as a whole, been pretty darn good, especially the last month. I am somewhat expecting the ownerships to be a little bit more different in some spots. But anyways, the point I'm trying to make here is looking at the ownerships, it doesn't seem like people are adjusting for that enough already. And so you can theoretically gain an edge if 50% of lineups are only doing AM only lineups. And so if you do 70%, like you already gain an edge that way. And so you're already increasing your likelihood to be on the correct or good enough combination of golfers to, if you're asking for GPP purposes, to be on the, GPP winning lineup. Like the chances that by adding in a PM golfer that you're going to be on the correct PM golfer are a lot lower. It's kind of like on no cut events, people tend to do fair and balanced a lot just because they want to finagle and get the correct optimal lineup, when really they should just be chasing the top end studs, locking in those top 5 finishes, and then getting those value plays. They're going to outproduce their price tag. It's kind of like that. And so, no, long story short, I would not do that. I think that's a great question. If you want it, again, depending on how many lineups you're doing, maybe 2 lineups if you're doing 20 or something like that. But I wouldn't do that. Now, if you're making some hand lineups and it happens naturally, that's fine. But you should be prioritizing the AM PM split. The only reason that doesn't end up being significant is one, I guess there's 2 reasons. Is one, the golfers in the AM wave are not as good as the PM golfers. Like if there's no weather advantage, we'd be on significantly more golfers in the PM split. I forget the second point I was going to make there. I did. I think I forget what I was going to say there. Apologies there. I think I was just going to say, like, naturally, if you're doing hand builds, like if you're doing hand builds, you're probably doing single entry stuff. You're probably doing 20 lineups. I think I'd be okay kind of ignoring tee times a little bit with some of the lineups and just trying to make your best lineups possible. And maybe that weather. Yeah. So that's what I was trying to get to. So the only other reason would be if the golfers in the PM split get some sort of weather delay because the winds get too vast. And again, looking at some of the wind projections that we have, there's only Wind Finder that's the highest, and that could end up happening. Okay, so I don't expect it to, but if it gets a little bit higher than what's projected to right now, there will be a delay. Because once it starts to get over like 35 mile per hour gusts, once it starts to get to 30 mile per hour sustained winds, I think the expectation would be to expect a delay. And right now it's not there, but if that changes, it could. Okay, yeah. So just getting back into this. So yeah, I am probably at this point, forget what I put in the write up here. I wanted to reference this because at the start of the week, I think it was in the slate confidence. Well, whatever. It started out that I was probably going to be on like 65% of my lineups with the AM PM split. It might, like right now, I haven't finalized anything just yet. I've entered the contest, so we should be good to go there. But right now, I'm thinking 90%, which I typically wouldn't do. And the only reason I'm doing that is because I want to be overweight. I would rather have a bad week because I was wrong on the weather, I guess, if that makes sense, where I'm intentionally trying to gain an edge on the field by being overweight there on the AM PM split. That's what I'm trying to do this week. And if that doesn't work out, I'm okay with that, if that makes sense. Like, it's very intentional. And if it doesn't work out, at least I can say I got the weather side wrong. I would rather do that. Now, you could probably still going to do 5% PM only. And then that only leaves me 5% to finagle with the normal lineups. And so I don't necessarily like that. But it's at least going to be 70%. I'll tell you that much for sure. All right. So lastly, let's jump on into some bets. Some normal bets for round one. Let me just load that up on mine. If you guys have any more questions, get those in. Happy to answer those. Do at the end of the live stream here very shortly, though. Probably got about 4 minutes left of the live stream. I'm going to pull up some matchup bets for round one. What's interesting, though, I think the books did a great job of having the lines correct for the weather splits in terms of adjusting for it, even in the matchup bets and everything like that. So very surprising there. Oh boy. I gotta show you guys this one. This one's kind of crazy. All right, we'll put on the here we go. This is the slide. One sec. All right, here we go. So we've had some pretty egregious lines lately with some of these tournament matchup bets on DraftKings, BetMGM, or FanDuel. Okay, it's been something I've actually called out on Twitter like 3 weeks in a row, and they all hit. Not last week. I didn't do that. Last week it was actually Tommy Fleetwood over Kyle Morikawa, which didn't hit. That was like plus 135. That was pretty crazy. Obviously, Tommy Fleetwood just didn't show up on Sunday. The other one, though, was Justin Thomas over Ludwig. And so Justin Thomas actually was a better play than Ludwig on paper, and you're getting him at like plus 100. It's very strange. And so this bet is actually more close to Tommy Fleetwood last week, where Seb Straka is not the better play than Tommy Fleetwood. But the fact that you're getting him at plus 120, that's pretty crazy odds. And that's for the tournament. I mentioned we're going to do, are we not getting round bets for them? That's unfortunate. On DraftKings. Oh, no, we are. Here we go. Let's do round bets. And so we're starting to buy the 9-to-5 edge right now. Typically speaking, guys, when I'm looking at this just as an FY, so we have the sportsbook edge bet. And so this is comparing the sportsbook data against other sportsbook data for these golfers. And so we can sort by like, where are we getting plus EV? Okay, and then like, do these correlate with the 9 to 5 data? Sometimes it doesn't. Actually, a decent amount of the time it doesn't. There are some spots where it will, and those are really good bets, but we typically don't get those. And so I have it set to sort by the 9 to 5 edge because those are typically where we can get some good spots. And so what I want to see though is I want to see where the sportsbook data is not telling us to do the opposite. And so most of the time it's going to be zero like this. So like we have Taylor Moore to beat JT Poston. That's a bet that I'm fine with for round one. And again, this is already adjusting for the weather splits. It already is doing that. Whether it's doing it enough, we'll see. This is a week where you can, like, my expectations for this week, especially for like DFS wise, are lots of terrible lineups, lots of bad lineups. It's really just trying to get lucky with, obviously, Wayne and GPP being in the correct combination, even more so. Like, to me, that's the edge, is preparing to have a lot of bad lineups, but the good lineups that you have this week should be a little bit better than they typically would be for a normal good lineup, if that makes sense. That's my approach this week. And I think part of my job is to set the proper expectations for the week. And so hopefully I've been able to do it. I feel like I did that really well last week. And this week, again, really going to be a lot of randomness. And it's all about just having a few really, really good lineups because they should be a little bit better than a normal week for those. And betting wise as well, I feel like it should be, because you can't predict when a wind gust is going to happen. So I hate when people reference the wind gust. I'm like, yeah, that sucks. How does the wind gusts help us make better bets or DFS plays? Like, we can't predict when the gusts are going to hit. Is it going to hit when my golfer's hitting over water and they're not going to get it over the water? Whereas, like, for a matchup bet, yeah, Taylor Moore's hitting over water. Gus comes and he doesn't get over. For JT Poston, it's not there, and he gets, like, it's always interesting there. So I don't like to. I like to look at the average sustained winds, and hopefully we don't get unlucky. But because of those gusts, I don't want to be placing too many bets. But if we are doing that, Taylor Moore to beat JT Poston, round one, that's a fine bet. Harry Hall to beat Kurt Kitayama, Jonathan Vegas. Now we're getting a little bit too low. I think just Taylor Moore on any of these sites is a good bet to beat JT Poston there. Okay, let's go with that. And again, I don't want to do this Keith Mitchell bet because we're getting a little bit of plus EV from some of the other sites there to do the opposite of that. So I'm just staying away. And we'll jump into some 3-ball bets. Keep the hope alive for sure. Just as an FYI, guys, as well, while I'm wrapping this up, I will be doing a college basketball props bet video on the 9 to 5 Sports YouTube channel as well. So the other channel later tonight. So if you guys are looking at for round one for Friday and Thursday, check that out. We're getting a lot of good edges there. Hopefully we get more. I'm specifically waiting so we get some underdog lines for that. But let's look at this real quick. So round one, 3-ball bets. We'll sort by edge. It's probably a little too high. I want to create another tag here for these as well, so we don't have to sort by this. Something I have on the list of things to do, just need to get done, where, for core plays, we just get told what the core plays are. For good outright bets, we just get told what good outright bets. For fades on the cheat sheet, we just get told which golfers we should be fading. I want to do that here as well. And for really all the data, I think that's extremely useful. But looking at it, guys, so we don't need to touch this one. Danny Walker, Grayson Sig. There's a tie in there. We don't need to mess with that one. Let's look at Kevin Roy, though. Kevin Roy, yes. Don't let me down again. Like, he hit for us with that first round lead. That was freaking awesome. Definitely get a lot of exposure to him in round one. First round leader wise, showdown wise, and a little bit of best balls as well. So, like, triple dipping with him here for 3-ball bets, but it is a good bet. Compared to everyone else there, he should be the golfer that shows up the most. Paul Waring as well. That's an interesting one. And then really these three right here would be the 3-ball bets. Now, what I hate about these guys are the bet odds. The bet odds are pretty terrible. Now, these are decimal odds, but probably something I need to adjust there as well. But to American odds, I wish they were giving us, at least 3 here for the decimal odds. This is a low payout. That's how likely they are to hit, but it's not adjusted for how likely they are to hit. So you're still getting some edges there. All right, so that's going to do it, guys. Appreciate everyone being here. If you guys want access to any of the tools that you saw in this video, plus much more, head on over to 95sports.com. Get access to all those tools for just $10 a month. Appreciate you guys being here. Good luck with all your lineups and bets for the tournament and also for round one. Appreciate you guys being here. Good luck. And as always, let's keep cashing.